Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can you please raise your hands if you can hear me okay? Well done for joining at 10 to 6. Let's start, everybody. So well done for joining at 10 to 6. That's very good. Now I keep a very close eye on our participant list, and same names are joining in week out. So this is our third week, and on Mondays we don't learn any new rule. We do a recap of the previous week's rules. So this is what we did last week, and you would have received your student handout. Now raise your hands if you have seen your student handout. Right, how many hands? 16 of you have seen your handout. Excellent, that's very good. Now you actually need to go through it at the weekend. It's like a summary for you to revise at the weekend. Okay, it's very important that you do. Okay, let's have a look. So I think we didn't get a chance to do this one, signs of Waqf, last week. So before we do this together, can anyone tell me what we did last week? Raise your hands and I will send you a request. Okay, I'm sending you a request.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, how are you, Hood?
मैं ठीक हूँ, आपका क्या हाल है?
मैं बिल्कुल ठीक हूँ। बेटा आप हमें बता सकते हैं कि हमने लास्ट वीक कौन से टॉपिक्स किए थे? Which rules did we cover last week?
Signs of Waqf.
Okay, yeah, and
what was it?
तीन चीजें की थी हमने.
The first one was sign of Waqf. The second one I think was Noon Sakin and Noon Tanween.
Yes, excellent. Okay, so we only did 2 of those rules of Noon Sakin and Tanween. If you check your syllabus, beta, have you checked the syllabus?
Ji?
You have?
I couldn't hear you, sorry.
आपने syllabus check किया है अपना?
Syllabus? नहीं.
Oh, well, all of you need to check your syllabus, and it was sent out to you via WhatsApp to your parents, and you're going to ask your parents to print it for you. Okay, you don't have to print it in color if you don't want to, but print that out and put it in your folders, because if you don't know what you're studying, then how are you going to study if you don't know what you're doing each week? Okay, so we're going to do this today for the first few minutes, 6 minutes or so, and then inshallah we'll start the lesson and Sia will take over. So let's have a look. I would ask someone, we got only 11 hands raised out of 60 of you. Okay, let's choose someone. Let's choose.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you, Zoya, from room 5?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine as well. Jazakumullah for asking. Now then, I'm sure your teachers are noting down all the students who raised their hands in the main lesson and they're getting shabash in the lesson. Okay, because I will be checking for my students as well. Okay, beta, would you like to read the quote for us? Now, this is not week 2, we are in week 3, but I'm going through it with you because we're revising. So let's start with the quote of Promised Messiah Islam, a lovely book, Dur Samin. I'm sure you read that. Read Nazams. If you do, then you'll know this Nazam.
Okay.
This one, beta.
The Holy Quran is the book of the gracious God. It leads to the path of knowledge and wisdom.
Excellent. Very nicely done. Well done, beta. Okay, so signs of Waqf, like signs, when you open the Holy Quran, you will notice signs in the Holy Quran during the verses, right? And some of the signs are for us, for readers, and some of the signs tell us to stop, Waqf, and some will tell us to continue, and some will ask us to do something else, right? But this, we are going to concentrate on signs of Waqf. The word Waqf means to pause or stop, okay? There are 2 main reasons why we do that. Firstly, if we are told, so when there are signs telling us to take a pause, and the second reason is when the verse is long and we run out of breath, okay? So we're going to look at the first reason, and that's when we are told, when there's a sign, okay? So Jazakumullah, Zoya beta. And now, oh, I need to do this in order to mute you. Okay, now I'm going to send a request to someone else to read these points for us. I hope my internet is working. Yes. Oh, I can't mute students. Okay, okay. Okay, then 14 hands are raised, only 14. Let's ask this student. I'm sending you a request. Assalamualaikum. Is that Furkanda?
Yes.
Excellent. Furkanda from room 11. Your teacher must have noted down your name. Well done for raising your hand. But would you like to read this and the first point for us, please?
In Arabic, as in English, punctuation marks help us to read while pausing at appropriate places. It was sunnah of the Holy Prophet ﷺ to stop at the end of a verse which for us has been indicated by a square/circle with the verse number written inside. Wasl is permitted.
Excellent, excellent. Well done, Vita. So the signs of what we're talking about is the end of verse sign. Okay, and this is how you will see it, and it will have the number written inside, for example, right here. And why do we stop here? Because it is a sunnah of the Holy Prophet. Okay, Jazakumullah. Let's ask someone else. Who shall I ask? Okay, let's ask this student.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. How are you, beta?
I'm good, and how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine as well. Jazakumullah for asking. Beta, would you like to read the second point for us today? You've got 1 minute.
Okay. This symbol originates from the circle of the da al-marbuta at the end of the word for verse, which is ayah.
Excellent. Jazakumullah, beta. Okay. So now you know, I think there's a name for this, isn't it? Waqf tam. Okay, so you've seen this circle or square many times. Here it is in Surah Fatiha. And when you have your Basmala, the first verse of the surahs, and now you know the name of it. Waqf tam. And now, and the reason you know the name of it, first you know the name. Secondly, you now know why we stop here, because it is a sunnah. Okay, and when you're looking for your verse numbers, it's in here, in the square or a circle. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a square, it can be a circle as well. Now, if there are signs on top of the verse and sign, you have the option. You can either stop or you can continue. Okay, it all depends on how you're reading it. Now, it is 6 o'clock, so we will hand over to MCL, our main course leader. Do we know our main course leader's name? Raise your hands if you do. 16 of us know. Mrs. Orchard, over to you.
Jazakumullah, Ms. Sami. Thank you very much for very short notice coming in for our very important 10 minutes before the lesson. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And I'm going to just quickly remind you why we start with ta'awuz. You're going to have tilawat. We're going to begin with tilawat, recitation of the Quran. This is just a reminder why we start with ta'awuz, as you will hear. أعوذ بالله الشيطان الرجيم فإذا قرأت القرآن فاستعذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. And when you recite the Quran, seek refuge with Allah from Satan the rejected. And this is why we read these words, which mean I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the rejected. And we will begin recitation of our Hifz Surah, the next Hifz Surah that we have to memorize with Baji Amta Sabur Saiba.
Hanji.
Assalamu alaikum Baji, how are you?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, मैं ठीक हूँ, आप कैसी हैं?
Alhamdulillah, excellent. आप शुरू कर लें, please.
ठीक. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا جاء
نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفر إنه كان توابا.
Jazakumullah, and we will hear your voice at the end. Jazakumullah for reading the hifz, and we are going to come back for the dua at the end. Jazakumullah. So that was the first surah that we're going to learn from the 30th Sipara. Okay, you have to memorize this surah. This is chapter 110, and you're going to learn 111, 12, 13, 14. That's 5 surahs from the end of the Quran, from the last juz, the last Sipara. We used to have to do 10. Okay, you're lucky you're doing only 5, but the point is it's about quality, not quantity. So we have to memorize these with all the rules. And as you can see here, there are some rules underneath. And as you go along, you will get to recognize them and apply them. And I don't expect you to know these rules and apply these rules now. But over the next 17 or 18 weeks, we will learn these, okay? So inshallah, by the end of this semester, you will know all of these rules and understand and apply them. The one that you probably know, which you should all be applying, is ghunna, this one, this purple one, ghunna. This is just the ghunna of noon mushaddad and mim mushaddad, okay? And this one, izhar, we did this last week, reading a letter clearly. Izhar actually refers to any kind of sakin letter read clearly. And here it's not noon sakin or tanween, it's mim sakin. So I'm not going to spend time on this izhar. We're going to do this in a few weeks' time. And then there's rules like qalqala and thick and thin letters, and we'll do all of that in due course, inshallah. This is why you have to learn the rules. You have to keep up with the rules. Okay, you really need to now make sure that you use that weekend and the student handout to understand and apply the rules, okay? So you've got to keep up with them because we're learning names now. Now, some of these rules, the ones that we did last week, they're actually not new rules. You learned them when you did your Talimul-Qur'an. You'd know them from level 1, but now we're going to use labels, okay? So names are labels of things, and it means that if you use that label or name, you don't have to give a long description of something. So for example, if I ask for an item of furniture which has 4 legs, a seat, and a back, that's quite a long description. Or I could just say, can I have a chair? And it's much shorter and easier to understand if I just say chair, the word chair, right? So that's why these labels and names like Idgham, Izhar, etc., that's why it's important to understand them. But the most important thing is that you must apply the rules in your daily reading, okay? That's really important. So here is one of the rules that we did last week. Now, what you've got on your screen and what assistant course leader at the beginning of this lesson was trying to explain to you is that there was a student handout. These slides that I do for your lessons, there's probably around about 80 to 100. You don't need all those slides, okay? You just need the most important ones to look at home and copy them out. Copy these rules out by hand, okay? If you copy them out by hand, then it means that you'll remember them. Okay, it takes longer for you to write than it does to read. So the longer you spend reading and writing something and focused on it, the better it will be retained in your memory. You will remember it better. Okay. So we talked about the ayah. We talked about the ayah mark, which is called the complete stop. You know, it's a square normally, right? Now this was sent to you, so you could have filled it in. So you can see at the top right, it says fill in the blanks. Have you done it? Is it completed? Right. So you should have filled that in. There were a couple of those. And this was the stop signs that we did last week. Al-Waqf tam here, the complete stop, because the Prophet ﷺ would stop there. Okay, so it's kind of complete. This one we're going to do this week is Al-Waqf lazim. Al-Waqf lazim. This is the compulsory stop. These little signs, these letters, this meme is here because it's the last letter of this word lazim. Can you see here the meme? These give you very strong hints as to what you should do, when you should stop and when you should not stop. Okay, so we're going to do that this week. We'll come across it again. Here it is again. The compulsory stop. Write it down if it's new. The compulsory stop. You must stop here. Okay, and it's so important to stop here because it's all according to the meaning. We don't understand the meaning, right? So they've helped us to stop at certain places, and they've called this lazim. This what it is al-waqf. Waqf means the pause. Al-waqful lazim, the pause that is compulsory, the compulsory stop or pause. Okay, lazim. There's the word lazim. Same word in Urdu, means compulsory. You must do it. And there's the meme. There's the meme from that meme right at the end. Okay, lazim. Now there's another little baby meme that will come up, and we'll do that next time. And here you can see. It's so important according to the meaning, because the meaning of the Quran is everything. You must read it beautifully. And then once you start reading it, you'll be reading translation. But certainly when we read it, we must know where to stop. Just like in English, we've got full stops and commas. You must stop at a full stop, and a comma is kind of a pause, right? So here you've got the meme at the top. As you can see, I've circled it on top of that waqf tam, that's a verse stop sign. They've got the meme. Okay, and on top of the waqf tam, this verse and stop, you've got various letters, and they have certain meanings, and they give you a hint, or they guide you as to what you should or shouldn't or can and can't do. Here it is saying you should not stop. You should not continue. You should stop. You must stop here. Okay, and here in the margin it says waqful lazim. And what that means is it's telling you that on that line it's going to come up. So be ready for it. Don't miss it. Okay, because they're so small. These little, there's a la here and a la, and there's a tha. It's this meme that we're looking out for. So it's telling us, look out for this compulsory stop. Again, here at the bottom, it says, look out for the compulsory stop. Waqful lazim. Here it is. Remember that word waqful lazim. It'll come up in your exam probably. Waqful lazim, compulsory stop, meme. Okay, and the other ones mean different things. Okay, that was just the illustration for you. Now remember, the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, he in whose heart is nothing of the Quran is like a house in ruins. So what we're doing, we are filling our hearts with the Quran. And what we should have done is we should have filled our hearts the last 2 weeks with this Surah Baqarah. This was in your student handout. So here it says at the top left, be hifz memory. Hifz means the portion of the Quran that you've memorized. Hafaza means to take care of something. Okay, protection. We protect the Quran by memorizing it, so it stays in our heart, so no one can change it. If we've memorized it, we know it by heart. It can't be changed. And we have got to memorize Al-Baqarah verses 1 to 8. That's the first ruku. Here it is in front of you. Okay, and here again, I'm just very quickly going to run through this. I'm not going to stop on this page for too long. It's just to show you this is with you. You should have this student handout. If you've not received it, ask your teacher. It highlights the rules that we did last week. Here's the complete stop waqf tam. There's an example up here, the square sign here, but all of these square signs are waqf tam, the complete stop. And then you've got idgham kamil. Remember first of all, we did izhar when you read the end sound clearly with these huruf halaqi. And here, adhabun azim, sawa'un alayhim here. Okay, where we're reading the end sound clearly because of these letters. And then you've got idgham kamil, the assimilation, the merging, the blending of the noon sound where it disappears. Mir rabbihim hudan lil muttaqin. So the end sound disappears. Okay, not hudan lil, but hudan lil. Not min rabbihim, but mir rabbihim. Okay, I'm rushing through this because you're just meant to see this. You should already have this. You should have looked at this yesterday. And I showed you that in the azan as well, you've got idgham kamil, Allah ilaha, okay, Muhammadur Rasul, Muhammadur Rasulullah, okay, you've got complete merging. Okay, so we get to this point here. I'm going to ask somebody a question quickly just to make sure that we've understood. I'm going to ask you 3 questions about each of these lines. I'm going to ask you where it is izhar, where we read it clearly, why we read it clearly, what's the clue? The clue is in the purple, right? And how would you read it? Okay, then I will ask you about idgham. Which one is idgham? Which one where you would blend the sound? Why? What's the clue? How would we know we would read it with idgham? And then I'd want you to read it correct. So I'm going to ask you these 3 questions. Now, if you've got your hand up, it means that you're ready to answer a question. So if you're confident with those questions, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Let me see if I can find somebody here. I've sent you a message.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, Usman. How are you, beta?
Good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Good, alhamdulillah. Now you're going to tell me which tanween, the n sound, is har. Which one's read clearly?
Muhammadun.
Which one, top or bottom? Is it this? Is it this tanween circled here? Or is it this one at the bottom?
It's the one at the top.
Very good. Okay, so one at the top. Now, why? How did you know that?
Because there's an izhar letter next to it, which is an alif.
Very good. Yes, it's one of those letters of the throat, isn't it? Or letter of izhar, really clearly. Excellent. Then remember, no gunna, right? Remember, we would read it nice and clearly. We have to jump off it. Do you want to give it a go?
Ji.
Okay.
Wama Muhammadun inna illa.
You can finish off. Rasul, shabash. Okay. Just don't forget the gunna here. Muhammadun. Okay, and don't sit on that. Don't sit on it. Just jump off it straight away. Excellent. Very good. Jazakumullah. Thank you for your help. Jazakumullah. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to ask somebody else to unmute. I've sent you a message. I've sent you a message to unmute. If you can unmute immediately, that would be great. Okay, I'm going to send a message to somebody else now to unmute.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum Zara. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, alhamdulillah. Now, so idgham. Which one is idgham?
Idgham is the top one, I think.
Well, we just had the top one. That's izhar. Okay, that's read clearly. So which one would idgham be?
Oh yeah, it would be the bottom one then.
Because idgham means blending, joining, assimilation, right? So this N sound of the tanween, then the N sound would blend into the ra. And probably the reason for that is because when you use the same part of your mouth and tongue to pronounce both of them, and it's just easier for your tongue to jump to not to say the N sound, go straight into the ra sound. Okay. Now, what's the clue? How do we know that this one is idgham at the bottom? What letter follows a tanween? What's the letter that's underlined in purple?
It's ra.
Ra. Remember last week we said ra and lam, they are idgham kamil, complete blending, complete assimilation. So do you want to read after me?
Okay.
Okay. Muhammadur Rasulullah.
Muhammadur Rasulullah.
Excellent. Very good. And you see it disappeared completely. Disappeared. That was assimilation. That's what we call assimilation. Excellent. So Jazakumullah, thank you for your help. Now, remember today is just revision, but we are learning one new rule. We will be learning one more stop signs, but we just need to make sure on the Monday, look, we're spending the whole of the Monday class making sure you understood last week's rules. Okay, have a good look at this screen. This is also in your, I think this came on your, this might be on your student handout, I can't remember. Izhar, look at those letters that are circled in blue. Those are the letters. If they precede means come before, okay? So if they come before the N sound, a tanween or a noon sakin, they will have no effect. They'll have no effect on the noon sakin sound. You'll just read it clearly. An'amta, for example, okay, clearly. However, the green letters, the ra and the lam, if the noon sound precedes them, if they follow the N sound comes before them, they will have a very strong effect, and the N sound will just merge into them, right? Like Muhammadan, Muhammad and Rasul, it will become not Muhammadan Rasul, but Muhammadur Rasul, okay? So I'll show you another example later on, again, just to remind you, but you should know this. Izhar, what we read clearly, the N sound read clearly, okay? And it's these letters that have no effect on Nun Sakin Tanween and allow them to be read clearly, no hunna. Idgham letters, the Ra and the Lam, they do have an effect on the N sound, okay? So learn them, memorize them. These are Huruf Halaqi, letters of the throat, the blue ones. And Ra and Lam, the way we remember them, we just remember them as a word, Ril, okay? Ra and Lam, okay? So you should have learned those last week. Should have learned this last week. Remember, this is the prayer, parts 1 and 2, and we're going to do the third part today. And the great thing about that is that it's got this week's rule in it. And then you've got this Quran reading stages. I want your hands up. Everybody put your hands down, please. I want hands up. I want to know who the superstars are. Hands down, everybody, for now. Hands down. Who are the superstars who gave their they or their parents gave their chapter and verse to the teacher? Who are they who gave their chapter and verse to the teacher? I know there were a couple in room 14 who were very good. Excellent. Okay, there should be more of you. Very good. Excellent. Okay, that's a good number, 38, but we need about a lot more. We need a lot more. We need all of you to give your chapter and verse to your teacher. It has to be once a week. Okay, so remember the way we do it. Let's see, does somebody want to read off this one, or we don't have much time? So what we'll do, look, this is what you do. I've sent this to you already in your QR. We did this last week as well. Learn the numbers, and when you read your Quran, go to the top, the side of the margin where the ruku sign is. Okay, that will have the name and chapter number. Read off that chapter number, and then the verse will be in the square in the Waqf al-Tam sign. Okay, the one on the left is the part, the juz, separa. We don't really need that. We can track that for you. We are tracking you. We're keeping an eye on you. We want to make sure that you read every day, and you can track yourself. Look, this is a tick list here. This is what we've done so far. And do you know we've got 10 weeks to midterm, and then we've got another 10 weeks after that to look forward to. Okay, so it's a long semester, but the great thing is that we can spread out all the rules, but you must learn them as you go along. Okay, so you must tick all of these. You must, for example, complete the fill in the blanks every week. Tick tick. Okay, you must memorize the Hibs portion that we recite at the beginning of the lesson. Today it was Surah An-Nasr. Okay, last week and the week before we did Surah Al-Baqarah, first ruku, so you should have that ticked, memorize it. Don't worry about the rules too much. We'll learn them as we go along. Second part of the prayer, we read that every day at the end, and then your chapter and verse recorded. So really, you should have had 8 ticks here for the past 2 weeks, and that's for you to do. Okay, that's your tick list. Again, any problems with your link, anything about your classes, you can ring this number. Again, you've got this. I'm just showing you what you've got already. Now, very quickly, the compulsory stop, right? We just did this. Remember this? Write it down. Al-Waqful Lazim. Al-Waqful Lazim. Lazim means compulsory. There's a little meme at the end of Lazim, so we have a little meme to signify it, okay? The compulsory stop. And here it is again, okay? It's so important that you stop there because of the meaning that they've put it in the margin. Waqf Lazim. You see it says Waqf Lazim here. And it's the little meme there. It means you must stop, okay? You must stop. Don't continue. Excellent. Okay, very quickly, just to let you know, in your reading rooms today, you go over this. You're going to go over this with your teachers to check that you know the rules. You must make sure that you've given your chapter and verse to your teacher, okay? And then everybody, there's 141 of you. I expect all 141 of you to come back, and then you're going to do the third part of the prayer this week. So come back afterwards so we can go into our breakout rooms today, please. Jazakumullah.